Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, colleagues, and partners. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome you all, both in person and online, to the third convening on advancing the financial health of women-owned microenterprises in South Africa. First, allow me to acknowledge and express our gratitude to the JPMorgan Chase Foundation, whose generous support and partnership with MicroSave Consulting, MSC, has made this initiative possible. We have Thembeka, who has joined us from JPMC. Thank you very much for honoring our invite.
Good morning to everyone. My name is Thembeka Mgoduso. I am from JPMorgan, and I'm an executive director at JPMorgan within investment banking, team. JPMorgan is a global, a financial services company, and we do have a presence here in South Africa. We've got our offices here in Ilovo, and we like, to partner, and make a contribution in our communities that we operate in. I'm really delighted, to welcome you all here to have this critical discussion, on the role, enhancing the financial health of women-owned enterprises in South Africa, and more especially right here, in Gauteng. At JPMorgan, we believe that the strength of business is linked, to the vitality of our communities. Our investments, in people, and places we serve have reinforced that our business is stronger, when opportunities is more equitable and accessible. We strive to help advance, inclusive economic growth and more resilient financial systems in communities we serve around the world. This is how we're proud, to partner with MSC, on enhancing, financial health, for women-owned enterprises in South Africa. This initiative is dedicated to addressing the financial, business, and economic challenges that women-owned microenterprises face. Together, we aim to create innovative solutions that promote resilience and unlock the immense growth potential of these enterprises. Throughout our conversations, during the day, we'll have opportunities to reflect, on the significant challenges women enterprises encounter. These being, and I mean, what I'm going to cite here is not, the full suite. But just to highlight a few, limited access to capital, which remains such a major barrier, with many women enterprises, relying on personal savings to being labeled, high risk, for formal lenders. You go to the bank, and they profile you immediately, the door, you feel like, the door is closed. Low formalization rates, that mean that approximately 80%, of women enterprises operate informally, restricting their ability to access essential financial services. I mean, these, challenges, they're not insurmountable. They can be resolved. There are clear opportunities to provide meaningful support. such as, bridging financial gaps through partnership and linkages with both, actors within our environment. We can create an enabling environment, for women-owned, enterprises to thrive. Our commitment, to this initiative reflects our broader dedication to fostering economic inclusion and empowering women entrepreneurs. Together with our partners, we aim to create a future where women-owned small enterprises in Gauteng not only survive but thrive, becoming pillars of vibrant and healthy communities. I thank you on that note and hand over to Kim.
Thank you for setting up that stage. Because one of the things that we're going to be discussing today is how do we get those people in those tax shops, those open-air workers, MSMEs, and people who are generally informal and excluded, how do we get them growing, confident enough to get to that stage of inclusion, then also confident in that stage to make that next step. So it's all one thing to be registered, but okay, now I'm registered, what do I do? So we looked at micro and small entrepreneurs. We did this study across 2 phases. A qualitative phase that helped us understand the context. We are all East Africans, so we didn't want to assume that we know what's happening in Southern Africa, and let alone in Gauteng. So we did this to help us understand, but also to build an appreciation and empathy of what is the lived realities of these entrepreneurs. Then with those insights, we scaled up the work and did a quantitative research with 600 respondents. So they were all engaged in at least one of three sectors, so manufacturing, services, or trading. And then we purposefully selected them to ensure that we had people who are informal, who are unregistered, and were a bit fluid in terms of where they operated from, because we wanted to understand what's keeping them in that space, and then how we can get them out of that space. 5 key things popped up about what these women really care about when we talk about financial health. So first and foremost, financial health is a concept that makes sense to most of us in the room. But for the women on the ground, you're talking another story. So they want to know, first and foremost, if I have a shock, COVID happens, something else happens, can I recover? Or is my business done? Or if the manufacturer raises the price by 10%, that wipes out my profit margin. Can I recover? So financial resilience is something that's critical to them. And we'll see that the different women that we engaged are on different lines on that continuum. The next thing is control. So now that I have earned the money, now that I have this money, what can I do with it? So in East Africa and other places, we find women can earn the money, but in the household dynamics, the men make the decisions on what to do with that money. And what we're saying is for these women to actually have control and independence, because the two of them are interlinked, we need the women to actually be able to own their assets, manage their assets, decide what to purchase. They also need to access capital. So unfortunately, most of the times when they heard capital, they just thought money. But capital is much, much more. But what we need now for them to be able to do is to translate the social capital that they have into monetary and other assets so that then they can expand their businesses. Then the last one was business growth and expansion capacity. This is interesting. And across the MSME segments that we found, not everyone wants to grow. So just a quick highlight of some of the findings that we got. So most of them are not registered. No big surprise there. What also was disappointing, but again, not very surprising, is that they cannot meet their expenses through their business profits. And that's worrying. But ideally, they should be able to not only meet their personal and business expenses, have a little bit left over. Because it's that left over that they can actually begin to build credibility with a financial institution. It's with that left over that they can build savings to increase their resilience and their independence. It's with that that's been left over that they will actually have some pride. So I talked about segments, I hinted at this in my conversation, but what we found is that there are 3 distinct segments of these women micro-entrepreneurs. So because they're just starting, everything is new, everything is exciting. So again, there are challenges and opportunities. The challenge is, because they're so new, this might be a stopgap measure for them. They might be doing this just because, it's something to do while I wait for something else. And if there's something else comes, I will drop this. Because if we can take them, nurture them, guide them, direct them, we can get them to the next stage, which is strategic optimizers, or what we call on our side, thrivers. So people who, or rather strivers, people who are determined to make it. So this first stage often are people also who, they can be here today, gone tomorrow, and they're happy with that. But then these strategic optimizers have learned a few things from that first phase. They've learned, don't give your friends and family goods on credit because they will not pay. They have also learned that, every money you keep, you don't have to go tell all your friends and family that you made some money from your hustle, because guess what? They're going to encourage you to buy them drinks and this and that, and all your profit goes. So they've learned a few things, yeah? They're becoming a bit more sophisticated. So, they feel that, okay, I have this business somewhat figured out. All right, then we get to the growth seekers. So these are people who have generally bypassed most of these teething problems. They might be 3-4 years in this business. At this point, it's still informal. Yeah, they're still not sure if they want to make that plunge to formalizing. But because the business is growing to a scale, they have no choice. They have to, else the magic stops. So what we also learned from our research is that these strategic optimizers form the bulk of entrepreneurs in Gauteng. Very, very exciting, like I said, because it means we're in that precipice. If we get things right, we will get them to move and go ahead and become growth seekers and beyond. In my honest estimation, we misunderstood that there is what people perceive to be value for money and what is actual value for money. So we perceived that they thought the value for money was just buy this small solar lantern. It's cheap, it's affordable, fantastic. But we forgot that what they actually feel is value for money is with this TV, with this lantern, with this ability to charge my mobile phone, my husband doesn't have to go wandering around from one bar to another because there's no electricity in the house. He can come home once he's done working. 1. 2, we forgot that the man, also in home, is tired of being the laughing stock in the village because his family is backward, they have no electricity. So with this, he's at par. We forgot that the woman is in a group where she has saved some money, and she's tired of her children having to rely on paraffin lanterns and this to be able to do their homework. So with this device, a number of the rooms are lit, and her kids can do homework easily. So we misunderstood that customers are not just aspiring for the next thing here. They actually want to go a few steps ahead and are very happy to hop from this level to the next. Now, from all the research we did, every perspective we gleaned, we learned that these women are lacking 4 major things. They lack access to finance. And here I'm not just saying credit, because sometimes, you hear finance, you think credit. So they want to be sure that whatever they're working for at the end of the day is safe. Yes, they do need credit, but responsible credit. They don't want to over-indebt themselves, but they find themselves there because they don't have other risk protection and mitigation tools. So we are advocating for a digital play, and we think digital financial services and platforms will help increase access of finance to that segment. So the second one is knowledge. So over and over we hear, we don't know. So yes, I want to expand my business. Who doesn't want to get a grant from the government to expand and go into another province? But where do I get that information? Better yet, who can I ask who's successfully applied for that program so that I can get info and guidance and perspectives from them, so then I know it's going to work for me. The third one is government services, largely because this segment of informal people is large. And like I said, depending where they are on that spectrum, either they're happy to remain or their business will push them to the front of having to be registered. And so how do we make this not just compliance with the law, but also something that's personally motivating? And then the last piece of this is markets and geographical coverage. So not surprisingly, most of these entrepreneurs are small, they're localized, they're in their little spaces. What we want them to do is to think beyond and see opportunities beyond and be eligible for opportunities beyond. Because when they start doing that, then the need for themselves to actually change will become self-evident. So I think those are my parting words. Let's not force things on people. Let's give them the opportunity and let the complexity come when the business is ready for it.
My name is Jean Jerry. I am part of the banking, financial services, and insurance practice at MicroSave Consulting, and I'm based out of Nairobi. So for this segment, we will be discussing building a digital financial services platform for women-owned micro enterprises. And in line with that, we will discuss awareness, usage, and preference of tools for digital financial services and financial products. These are some of the findings that we uncovered from our research in Gauteng Province around awareness and usage of financial products and digital financial services. So when we look at awareness, in terms of looking at these 4 products, personal or business loans, insurance, government subsidies and financial management tools, and savings or investments, we found out that personal or business loans are the products that the women-owned microenterprises are most aware of, and this is similar across all sectors. The 3 sectors are manufacturing, services, and trading. So there's high awareness of credit and also a lot of usage of credit, which you will see as we go along. Now, in terms of usage of financial products, we found that savings and investments are the most widely used products, with rates of 61% in manufacturing, 62% in services, and 52% in trading, which shows their importance across all the sectors. There's also the usage of credit, again, as mentioned, which is particularly significant in manufacturing at 44%, trading at 41%, and services 39%. This highlights the reliance of credit for business growth. Again, now looking at insurance and government subsidies, these are much less used as compared to the savings and investments and the personal or business loans. Now, in terms of savings, we looked at 3 different tools that the women prefer to use to maintain their short-term savings. So we have banks or digital savings products, we have group-based savings, and we have in cash. So you find that cash is still king. So that's what's majorly used to maintain short-term savings, but there is also banks and digital savings products, which are also being widely used in the services sector and also the manufacturing sector. And then there's also group-based savings, such as the Stockvelds. They also play an important role in the services and trading sectors, though much less in the manufacturing sector. Now, looking at insurance, where we found there's quite low awareness and usage, this is similar across all sectors. There's a concerning lack of business insurance. Now, in terms of modes of payment that the women are adopting, again, cash is still king. It's still the most widely used method, but there is a significant shift towards digital payments, especially in the manufacturing and services sectors. Now, what are the reasons why the women are adopting digital payments? The major reason that we uncovered is that they want to expand their customer base. So the motivations for adopting digital payment methods vary across the sectors, but businesses in services show the strongest inclination towards expanding their customer base. Now, based on these findings, we have an intervention that we are proposing that would be able to solve for some of these issues. This is a digital financial services platform for women-owned micro-enterprises. This platform is intended to streamline access to loans, insurance, and savings for the women-owned micro-enterprises. Now, how it works is the women-owned microenterprises can access the platform via a mobile application or agent networks. It integrates digital wallets and offers flexible repayment options based on the women's business cash flows. So partnerships with microfinance institutions and digital lenders ensure that the products are tailored to the behavior and cash flows of the women-owned microenterprises. Now, in terms of benefits, we see improved financial access, cost savings, and reduced reliance on informal credit, and also tailored financial tools. These are the benefits that the women-owned microenterprises would get from using this platform. Now, at this point, we will move on to our panel discussion. We have Evans Mafenduka, who from the Development Microfinance Association. We also have Simangele Nkwinika, who is the Director of Local Economic Development at the Gauteng Department of Economic Development. Thank you so much for joining me. So we'll move over to a small discussion. Now, we talked about the digital financial services platform that we are proposing for the women-owned micro-enterprises. And this platform is intended to streamline access to loans, savings, and insurance. So based on what we shared, are there any solutions in South Africa that you see that are similar to what we are proposing? And as you see it, who would you think would be the ideal owner of this solution?
South Africa is a very interesting country, very modern, very sophisticated. And when you look at the banking infrastructure or the banking systems, they are comparable to those in the most developed, world. And one would think that because of that, then all the financial systems become very easy and accessible and benefit the whole country. But unfortunately, that is not so. And I think there's a sense in which the first world, banking infrastructure or system has been prejudicial to the informal, businesses, particularly those that are run by women. I mean, when you look at South Africa, it has a good measure of mobile money interoperability, with mobile money platforms, if you like, integrating with card payments and integrating with other platforms to enable, the transfer of money, both locally and internationally. But unfortunately, because a lot of what we are talking about when you are digitizing, the systems, you really are talking about e-money. And the issue of e-money is very, very tightly controlled. And that actually makes it very difficult for different people or institutions that are interested in building these platforms to actually, build something that is favorable to women businesses.
Thank you so much for that. So what I'm hearing is that there might not exist as it is a platform that is already doing this, but the foundation has already been set by different institutions. So it would just be a matter of, removing some of the barriers that you mentioned and the partners to work together to develop this. In terms of the findings that we shared, we saw that 80% of the women-owned microenterprises in Gauteng are informal. So how do you think the platform that we are proposing can integrate informal savings mechanisms, such as the Stokvels, into its design to drive adoption among the informal enterprises?
So I'll give a practical example on this one. So just let's imagine we have around 6,000 WMEs in Gauteng. And then we encourage them to contribute maybe 100 rands a month. In 12 months, how much that is? In 12 months, it's 7.2 million. So in 36 months, how much is that? So I'm coming to a point that we need to introduce the WMEs to such institutions, your Stokvel, your cooperative bank, so that they own their means. They make money, they do their own transaction, they develop their own products. What we can do on our side, and it's what we're currently doing, is to train them.
So looking at the financial institutions, how do you think these institutions can design and deliver affordable, low-risk credit products through the platform that cater to the unique cash flows of the women-owned micro-enterprises and also their credit worthiness? And also mention for both the formal and the informal enterprises.
Yeah, I think that's a very, difficult but realistic and practical, question. Affordability is actually very challenging, to the informal sector in South Africa. Now, I was talking about, leveraging on the mobile money platforms in the country. which would actually reduce a lot of costs for informal businesses because they don't have to travel to the bank to get cash. They don't have to deposit cash, which is charged very highly. They don't have to risk, people stealing from them, mugging them because they are carrying cash and stuff like that. But the problem is, when you go mobile, because of the lack of infrastructure to support that, a lot of infrastructure has got to be put up. I mean, we have the commercial banking infrastructure, but commercial banks always think profit, 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 profit. And so when they start charging, the charging becomes unrealistically high. I really think that in South Africa, we need to encourage the regulators to offer banking licenses to mobile phone operators. Because the infrastructure is reasonably there. And like I said, if people are struggling, with smartphone connectivity because of poor quality infrastructure, we can use USSD, platforms. Those are cheap, those are accessible, those work even where, smartphones don't work.
So what role do you see for private sector partnerships in scaling the adoption of digital financial services, platforms, and how can they be incentivized to promote financial inclusion, specifically for women-owned microenterprises?
Like I said, the Development Microfinance Association, DMA in short, has got over 300,000 clients, women clients, operating, all informal, none of them are registered, operating all over the country, mainly in rural and in township areas. Now, when interacting with them, you learn quite a lot. But I think the biggest partnership we need, particularly with the informal sector, is with government itself, because regulation is very hostile. Regulation favors registered, formalized businesses as opposed to the informal businesses. Government must actually accept the existence of informal businesses and recognize them and actually allow them to have access to the same benefits that registered businesses have.
Thank you for those insights. We'll move over to you, Simangele. So what steps do you think can be taken to ensure the platform not only provides access to financial products, but also builds trust and financial literacy among the women-owned microenterprises? Because also, as you saw, for some products like insurance, there's minimal uptake. It could be a financial literacy issue and also trust issue. So how could we build trust among these women so that they can actually take up this product?
I think the best way is to teach them. Financial literacy is very important. Product development is very important. So they need to, to know that they will do their own credit, determine their own interest in terms of loans and in terms of savings. They can do a whole range of things just to trust each other.
I'll now open up the floor to the audience.
In terms of your experience dealing with the informal sector, what are recommendations that you are providing for government for control purposes in respect to measuring the performance of those small businesses and also for revenue collection in terms of that? And then through your experiences, what are the processes that we can use even if we don't enforce formality, but what are the processes that can be used to improve or to even get to understand the contribution of the informal sector? Because even now, when we check in Stats SA, there's not much of details in terms of the contribution on the economic development of South Africa that is contributed by informally. So what are the measures that you think we should take for control measures and for also data purposes of knowing the impact that the informal market is bringing to the country?
I think the biggest challenge in South Africa is that, the government talks a lot about recognizing the informal sector. They say the informal sector contributes over 800 billion, per annum to the economy. So they've got some figures of some sort. But the problem is, when it comes to, they say the proof of the pudding is in the eating. When it comes to really recognizing that the informal sector is the informal sector, that seems to elude them. And they start, they throw this acronym, SMMEs, because it is safer for them. SMMEs, small, medium, and micro. Now, if my wife and I took our granddaughter, who is 3 years old, and said, okay, we need to run, away from a snake, and all of us must run on our own, including our 3-year-old daughter. And this is a black mamba that is very fast. I mean, is that fair on our granddaughter? So you cannot, we're all human beings, I agree, we're all businesses, but they are adults, they are, boys, girls, and then they are babies. All right. Now, informal are babies. And when you craft regulations for babies, they should be appropriate for the babies. Now, the government will actually say, we recognize there's an informal sector, but we will cause them to live by the rules of the small and the medium. Now, at one time, the Ministry of the DSBD wanted the registration of informal businesses. And I was one of the biggest critics against that, because what they were saying was, they must register with the CIPC, they must register with SARS, they must register with UIF. Now, I looked at my grandmother back in KwaZulu-Natal, selling eggs by the roadside. Turnover per day, 120 rand, maybe 200 rand. Let's be generous, 500 rand. All right? Now she has to register with CIPC. She does not even know what CIPC stands for. Secondly, she doesn't even know where to go to register. Number 3, she doesn't even know what compliance requirements are after she's registered. Compliance costs, the complications of trying to understand what that is. It's so much, it's so difficult. She does not employ anyone. Why UIF? She doesn't make enough to pay tax. Why SARS registration? It's just increasing her cost and pushing her out of the market. Sit at home, sell nothing, wait for the grant. That is not enough to even buy food for one of the grandkids for 1 week.
So we'll close it at that point, and we'll move on to our next session, which will be handled by my able colleague, Lois Eva Adongo. Thank you so much.
Just going to quickly handle the next part of the findings we got as we did our research in the province. So our findings tell us that training is the most widely received form of government support, while product support and registration assistance are minimal. I hope this cools the nerves, especially. Yeah, so government is not doing too badly, but they could do better in terms of training. 50% of the women, especially in the manufacturing and trading sectors, have benefited from training. When it comes to non-financial products that the women micro-entrepreneurs use in South Africa, we have marketing and advertising as the most used non-financial product, followed by accounting, bookkeeping, and business training programs. So the main reason, again, why we have marketing and advertising top on the list is because the benefits are almost like very, very immediate. If I do a lot of marketing, it's going to create a lot more awareness, and if my product or my service makes sense, then that definitely translates to a lot more income for me, so it makes sense. Again, looking at the key opportunities for WME's growth, skill development stood out very highly, and 50% of businesses in the services sector and 54% of businesses in the trading sector express the highest demand for it. Our findings reveal that the service sector seemed to have fewer barriers to market access compared to those in the manufacturing and trading sector. So when it comes to access to markets, there were varying challenges across sectors. Again, social media has come out there very strongly as the most dominant channel to develop a new customer base across all sectors. Again, comes back to the sentiments that were raised in the morning, word of mouth. Social media is basically word of mouth, yeah? It's digitized word of mouth. So that's what came up. People have more bias towards buying something or taking part in something because somebody they know, somebody who looks like them, somebody they can identify with, somebody they can relate to is doing the same thing or is also partaking in the same thing. Up here is a proposed intervention that we felt would most appropriately address some of the issues and leverage the possibility of taking advantage of the opportunities that we saw based on the findings. So we are proposing an online private sector-led platform for WMEs. And the main goal of this platform would be to provide access to markets, supply chains, and knowledge. Here we're just talking about the skills, which came out very strongly. So how this would work is that we have the women MEs register on the platform to access e-learning modules, mentorship programs, and market linkages. And then we also have vendors on the other side get to list their products and receive feedback from the customers. So in terms of potential partners and what roles they would play, would have, of course, the e-commerce providers, and then would also have now the training institutions. That's where a lot of the mentors we talked about, the life coaches, the business coaches would all come here. And then would also have the member organizations. You'd probably come up here. And then we have fintechs who can now help in integrating digital payment systems. Briefly invite my panel guests to just help me unpack what this would look like. Thank you very much, Douglas. Thank you very much, James. So as we have seen here, we are proposing an online private sector-led platform to try and harness these opportunities and address some of the barriers we have just covered from the insights. So I'm just curious, do we have any solutions in South Africa currently that are similar to what we are proposing?
Funny enough, you find that most of the banks, they realize much earlier on that they need to get involved in the small and medium businesses. But what I have seen lacking is that hasn't been well communicated to their target clientele. So the uptake and utilization of those products are not well known. Even ABSA had a center in town, I think in Marshall Street, where small enterprises, you could go and use their facilities for free, boardrooms and the like, but very few people went there because it looked too professional and intimidating for people to go there. So there are products, even on the government side, like the CIPC, they've developed a biz portal, but it's a bit complicated as well. So one can understand why it's not being utilized well.
Coming to your questions about the social media online platforms, I'm from Kenya, but I live here since 2011. And I see that definitely, yes, there is some online services and similarities of what is being proposed, but I still see that there is kind of an assumption that if you put anything on online platform, it will work. And it can actually give you all the benefits that you need. And it can do all sorts of magic that possibly you have never experienced before. But I think there is a lot of barriers that comes with that, where having data is always a problem. Not many people can actually trust social media to put their money there and actually expect something to work on. Small businesses do not invest a lot in advertisements. Insurance companies also, on that space, they do not come in to support small businesses as well. So there's definitely need to enhance online platforms to make it trustworthy, to make it actually live up to the expectations of the SMEs, as our previous panelists were saying, to actually have the impact that is required.
What do you think would be done better to especially improve adoption of the platforms that already are in existence? Because no need reinventing the wheel. How can we make what you already have better, especially the private sector-led ones?
There are opportunities in that the government, for a while now, introduced this called Smart ID. Mm-hmm. In a way, that person is well known, is in the system of government. It should take just a little more steps to link that to security. Because unfortunately, what has happened is that all that, the previous panelist, Evans, mentioned about how complicated registration of CIPC is. Unfortunately, the bad news is that in the past year, it's become even more difficult. Actually, maybe hundreds of thousands of companies will be deregistered for not complying. Mm-hmm. And this came about because of South Africa being grey-listed for not meeting certain criteria in terms of combating terrorism. Mm-hmm. So things will get worse. However, we need to remember that this opportunity of having a smart ID, why not link that up? If you already have information which is credible, when there is voting, that person is recognized and their identity is confirmed. What makes it difficult that when they want to trade now, then suddenly they are difficult to be recognized and given facilities. So we need to find a way of linking the two.
Thank you very much, James. Thank you very much, Douglas. And for the audience, it was a great pleasure. And I would now like to invite my colleague Priscilla to take over the next part of this conversation.
This last conversation is going to be very easy. We'll be talking about public sector interventions. And just from the first panel to the second panel, you realize that public sector is really, really important. That's why both panels have been touching about the support the government is providing in supporting entrepreneurs to help them in registering their businesses. So in this session, I want us to talk about three main things. Basically, first on formalization. What are the challenges of formalization? Why are businesses still relying on informal channels to be able to run their businesses? We'll also be talking about government programs, what government programs are currently available, and why are many of these entrepreneurs not aware about these government programs. And also we'll be talking about, we'll have a panel discussion just to discuss what will be the shape and form of these interventions. How would they look like if you were to have the government have an online platform for these entrepreneurs to help them in formalization? How would that look like? And which stakeholders would we need to bring in the room for them to be able to help these entrepreneurs have a smooth process in registering their businesses? So from our research, we realize that most of these women entrepreneurs do not register their businesses. Then what are the reasons why these women are not registering? So from our research, we realized that tax implication was the highest reason why they are not registering, and also lack of information of where to register this business. From the women that we were able to interview, these are the benefits that they provided as the main reasons, the main benefits that they have realized having registered their business. So from this graph, we find that access to skills and development programs was at a high, just from the panel that you just had with Lois. So we realize that skills development is a key motivator, or is a key place where they can be able to realize benefits when they're already formalized. Then there is the ease of doing business, which was also one of the high reasons. Then we realize that the government is doing something, and there are different players and different government programs that are being run in the province. However, these entrepreneurs are not aware about them. It's interesting that 52% were not aware of any government programs that are being run to be able to support them in their enterprise. So chances are they are operating in their own silos. They don't have an opportunity to come together and discuss and find out what else is the government doing to be able to support women entrepreneurship. So lastly, just before I invite the panel, the solution that we are proposing is how can we have an online platform that is public sector-led to be able to support the public sector in implementing some of these solutions that we are proposing? How can we have a one-stop shop so that if an entrepreneur or a woman in business walks in, they can be able to get the registration sorted, they can be able to get access to procurement activities, they can be able to know what are the government services that are available, what programs can they be able to get. And of course, this cannot be done by the government alone. Different stakeholders have to come in. And what are the benefits that will accrue to these entrepreneurs? Of course, first of all, how can we increase their sales? How can we increase their turnover? The benefits of formalization will be able to be actualized. So they'll see the benefit of them not just having their small shop in the corner, but being plugged into a wider ecosystem. And of course, these benefits will also spill over into the wider economy. So to discuss more about the public sector, I'd like to invite Nomonde Mdakane. Nomonde Mdakane is the founder of Luan's Enterprise. Secondly, I'd like to invite Reseja Legodi. Reseja is the Deputy Director, Special Programs at Gauteng Department of Economic Development. So maybe I'd like to start with you, Nomonde, having been in business, and we are talking about formalization. And just from our statistic, as we first mentioned, is 80% of the women we interviewed are not formalized. So could there be something that we are missing in this conversation from your 20-year experience? What have been the barriers of formalization? And also, what have been the benefits that you have accrued having formalized the business?
Okay, thank you. I think the biggest barrier for for these women not to register, first and foremost, it's complications of tax. They believe that if you're going to be registering your company, you have to pay tax, which is true. And if you are registering your company, there's CP, there's CIPC, yes, that you have to contribute to it, annually. And there are other complications as well. And our company's main duty is to make sure that we are ensuring them that by registering their companies, they are going to benefit a lot in terms of government funding. They're not even use banking systems as well, because they believe that if you are taking your money to the bank will tell government or SARS or whatever to take their money. So our company's main duty is to make sure that they must understand everything that is not happening. But we really need to work very, very hard with government and private sector as well. Thank you.
So, Reseja, from your end, having worked also in government, currently, what have you observed as the challenges of these women not registering or formalizing their businesses?
As soon as you speak about formality, they think of only deductions from SARS. There's no benefits that comes with formalization. And I think the second one is that there's a question that is asked by the informal market, which is, why should I formalize? If I'm operating informally and I'm being sustainable, then what's the reason for me to formalize? Yes, there might be benefits, but do I need those benefits? So those things are the mindset that we said earlier to say, those things that we think that they are solutions or probably they are benefits to them. Do we really think they are benefits to them? Do they see them as benefits? The unfortunate part is that all the programs that government has set in terms of support to businesses, they need you to be formalized. The informal support that they were offering, it was during COVID, where they were supporting the informal markets with the relief fund. Unfortunately, there was no lot of people that even benefited from that relief fund because it was not even understandable on what are the requirements, and even those requirements, some of them did not have supporting documents of which is a permit. Some municipalities is still difficult to get a permit, or they had a moratorium of giving trading permits. So you've been operating, you need a relief funds, but you don't have a trading permit. So what's the proof that you are operating?
So Nomita, coming to you, still on informality, from the businesses that you've interacted with and supported, what are the long-term implications of these WMEs operating unregistered over time?
There are so many complications because they cannot be able to access any funding, they cannot be able to access any assistance, especially from government and private sector, because as if you don't have any documentation, there is nothing that you can do.
But finally, just on one round of questions for both of you. On the different policies that the government has been implementing. So earlier on, we started with discussing formalization, the challenges and what the government is doing. So from where you sit, Tresaja, what policy interventions have you observed recently that have been able to support these informal businesses, not just to get into formalization, but be able to grow and scale? And also, what is still left to be done? I think somebody mentioned about the minister being here. So if the minister was here, for example, and they get an opportunity to watch this clip, hopefully, what would you advise them to fast track? What policies would be very important to support women in business?
With regards to policies, I still believe that the procurement policy or the BBB policy is a good policy and initiative that wanted probably to balance the equation in terms of the gender participation. But what I think it still probably needs to be considered by the policymakers is that we will never be the policymaker, which is the player, and again we become the referee of that game that we are playing. We have created the policy on BBBE, which we'll also need to report on.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We have one last activity before we close. Jean will be passing a few questions across the tables, just on the different interventions that we have been discussing, starting from the first panel on digital finance, and then the second panel that we had on private sector interventions, and on this last one on public sector. I hope you've had really insightful conversations. So we'd like to hear your findings on how you'd develop solutions. So we'll start with group 1, group 2, then group 3. Kindly have one person from your team just highlight the solutions that you've been able to craft for the different personas.
Yeah, the first one was that the interventions that we need to develop to within the three categories that are here, which is the survivalists, the optimizers, and the growth seekers. So the consensus on us is that we don't need to have there's a lot of interventions that are existing. Okay. We don't need to invent new interventions. But what we need to start from the bottom up, because the interventions that we have, 500 interventions, they seem not to be working because we started from the bottom down. We thought for solutions that the businesses want. We didn't consult with the businesses on kind of interventions that government should develop or private sector should develop or mentors should be supporting. Mentors, remember, we are in business. If I'm getting an opportunity from Vodacom and saying that I need to mentor 20 SMMEs, or mostly they put it in number. The KPIs are in numbers. They say train 5,000 on financial literacy. I don't ask question if those people are wanting financial literacy. I grab the opportunity of a business and I train 5,000 on financial literacy. Whether that 5,000 needed financial literacy is not my business. I got money. So the issue is that when we develop a platform or interventions, start bottom up by engaging the informal markets and saying, you are in business, what kind of intervention is your business looking for? Then the platform that's going to be there accommodates the need of business. If they are confused, because most of the business, informal markets businesses, they are very confused on what they want. Some of them don't need funding. They need access to market. But Akasere, I need access to market. They'll say, I need funding. And then when you as a mentor or coach, you see that there's no need for money here. There's a need for market, then money will bring itself. Then that's where we can advise in terms of what kind of interventions we are putting in place. Secondly, when we come to the optimizers, they have a stability in terms of financial health. Probably what we need to do with them is it's also the same, to understand the needy. And out of the needy, what we recommended is that we need to probably give them more of diversity options in terms of product development, or even reaching out to other markets, for them not to just be content with what they have. They must see other opportunities there. So we need to have interventions that shows them that there's another room, which is so-called growth on the other path. So those are the interventions that we are proposing. On the growth seekers, they are doing well financially. Interventions that they want and that we presume the informal markets need is in terms of supporting them on the products that they use for their own businesses. Some, we don't have comparison even to other countries. You might find that I have a salon and my salon is doing well. The hairpiece, they are very cheap in Kenya or something. But there's no platform that links me to the cheapest hairpiece in the world. It's in this area. If the digital platform shares markets within the continent, maybe African continent, and when I go to that platform, I can access to see a comparison in terms of what brings money to my business, and I make a decision on procuring based on that. And the other thing is diversity in terms of complementary services. If you are doing a hair, and now you are only specializing on hair, but you can have somebody who is doing nails in the same salon. So when I think to go to the salon, I know that I'll get to do nails, I'll do hair, I'll also do makeup in the same salon. So we just need to teach them to grab the opportunities in terms of diversity on their products and the sustainability that comes with diversity or complementary services. So those are the recommendations that we have. Other thing is in terms of exports. We have a number of embassies in South Africa that are coming from other countries. They have a lot of opportunities in terms of exports, but there is no platform where you can reach out to American embassy and see what are the gaps in terms of access to market. What does America need that they don't have that we can tap on? We don't have such a platform. Even in African countries, I don't know what Kenya needs that South Africa is dominantly producing. For me to get that information, I think I need to go to 18 offices from DTIC to get that information, even though I'm working for government. So if there's a platform where you tap into and then you check African markets, what is the gaps in respect to products that they use and demand more that I can export to expand on my business. That is the last platform that I'm proposing for the growth seekers. Thank you.
We cannot emphasize the issue of learning. Training, education, mentorship, and coaching becomes important in all the groups. And we also suggested issue of peer learning. They could learn from each other. That's what I wanted to add. Thank you.
I think in addition to what they have already said, we can't stress the importance of needs assessment enough, so that you meet the entrepreneur at where they are. You don't give financial literacy to someone who's already a bookkeeper. You just give them what they need at that time. And so the needs assessment is very important. Tracking, very important. We have to know that, okay, this person started here and now they are here. They were given capital of so much, and the return on investment on that capital is now here. So now their business is at this level, then therefore we customize a solution for where they are at. So tracking, and what is very nice about this idea is that now it's no longer long-term. I mean, it's no longer short-term. You know, with many programs, it's 18 months, sometimes it's 6 months. The entrepreneur goes in, it's 6 months, they are done, but they haven't finished they haven't put into practice what they have learned. So this kind of system will have that long-term thing, that you are able, it's not just, you know, a program. So it's long-term. And I like what the gentleman said when he spoke about IDs, you know, because now then in that system it becomes easy to track. And if at all that system can pick up if that particular entrepreneur has been through another program. So that we are able to, instead of, we are able to streamline the support that we are giving, and we are not repeating and giving solutions that are not wanted. Was there anything that I forgot?
Thank you. I think another example that we gave was, especially from the survivalist, is to say these are maybe the street vendors, just to give an example. So you may find that maybe there's 5 of them sitting, but then for them to develop themselves again, they would do something like a daily stock fair, where every day we give this 100 rand, the 4 of us. So in that 400 rand that they'll be receiving, so you know that they've got money for stock, and whatever we will be left, it will be, maybe they use them for the savings, maybe to say this is what we're saving for December, we divide it, maybe the other one is for groceries. So you know that they're working towards maybe to get to the growth seekers. So that also is a motivation to them to say every day you must work hard. You must make sure that there's something that you do. You don't be lazy to say, I'm not going to stand at that corner because I know that I received 100 rand from here, that I must give it back, and I must also make sure that it also develop me in some other ways. Thank you.
Guys are efficient.
We looked at intervention number 3, an online public sector-led platform for WMEs. So basically what we're going to do in order to answer the 3 questions, we have actually summed up a prototype app that will be accessible online and also within the devices. So for step 1, we're going to recruit those SMMEs, go to their business places, recruit them, get their names, surnames, put them on a database. Soon after that, we're going to do what we called a psychometric assessment to see their mental capacity at kind of the level of stress that they can handle, the kind of business that they are in, are they suitable in the suitable spaces. Once that is done, they pass that, we do the compliance part of it. Are you registered, unregistered? If not registered, we do a business case assessment where we look at the financial standing. Are they, do they have bank accounts? If yes, we look at the bank accounts. Do you have HSE? Some of them are in the, in spaces where they need health and safety files. Some of them need COID. Some of them need, vet registration. Some of them need to be, linked or subscribed to specific sector regulations and regulatory bodies. We look into that as well. Once that is done, we develop a developmental plan where we're going to look at, say, group number 1, determine survival list. These are your gaps, and this is how long we're going to take to close those gaps. These are the services that you're going to be given. This is the itinerary. Your program is going to take 2 years. Group number 2, strategic optimizers. These are the issues, these are the challenges that we have, these are the proposed solutions. Your solutions is going to take us a year to complete. Group number 3, same procedure. We look at what they have, what they don't have. It's going to take 6 months. During that process, we're going to look at the compliance status of them. Okay, fine. For you to register a business, if I were to register a business now, in 15 minutes, I would have secured a name of my business. Tomorrow, I have a business. I go to the bank, open the bank. In 2 days, I've got that business. I mean, if you've given somebody 2 years to be able to do that, I mean, we've got professionals that can be able to assist with that within the app. We link up with most of the public sector. There are 2 ladies that side who actually raise their hand that they are into this space. We get and lobby people into the space, into the app, where they will be able to do, these services online, also to do the service one-on-one. Then we do market analysis and financial analysis. We look at the sectors that they are in. What's happening in those markets? What are the issues? What are the challenges? What are the peaks? Which are the lows? Then we'll be able to advise them accordingly. On the app itself, there's going to be a slot or a space where they do their financials, where they actually load their profits, their losses, so that we start to see and monitor them if they are fit, to handle their monies, or do they crave that KFC? As soon as the money comes in, there's a transaction for KFC, there's a transaction for lottery, there's a transaction for, what is this gambling platform? All this came Hollywood. Yeah. So we start to monitor and track and advise them. Look, as a business person, you need to have your personal bank account where you pay yourself salaries. On that account, you can do as you wish. But on this one, it's going to be clear and pure transactions in order for us, when we send you to the public sector, if there are opportunities in the public sector, we can handpick them from the app itself. Without going further, we handpick them from the app, send them in and say, here's our, blue-eyed boys. Please push them, get their funding, and that is done. So that's how we'll do it. Thank you. Is there
Thank you so much.
You want to add? So the beauty of this is that we can build in compliance with CIPC, because CIPC every year you need to submit financial annual returns. Yeah. So, and even the business, ownership. So you can build it in. They don't have to go through the hassle or the pain of having to comply on that. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Group 3. Indeed, the conversations are really interesting. We could go on all day, but in the interest of time, I'll invite Kim to just provide closing comments.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for all the insights that you shared with us. Some of us were sitting at the back there listening, taking notes, asking, confirming, double-checking, verifying that our translations and what we're hearing from you is correct. So thank you so much for giving your best and bringing your all and showing us what we should do, what we should think about.